welcome to the Great Shrimp Shoal. Today we're going to stop in on the 30-gallon tank containing the mountains, and we're going to get a first-hand look at just how well the colony of Snowball Shrimp that live there are doing, and I think that you guys will be surprised because they have come a long way. Thank you for showing up, and let's get things started. First off, we have something that's become much more common in my keeping of shrimp, and that is the remineralization of water which has been filtered or added to the tanks. My local water has good levels of minerals, but unfortunately I don't know what those minerals are, so even though I have good TDS in most cases, it may not be the nutrients that the shrimp need to survive long term, and that means that I now filter and process new water added to the tank, and as the mineral levels drop, I have to add this combination of calcium and other nutrients back to the tank water to level things off. It's an interesting process though, and it creates a nifty cloud of particulates that slowly permeate throughout the tank and cycle through the filter. I can't help but feel that the shrimp are affected negatively every time I cloud their water up though. Overall, they seem to pay no mind, and if anything, they're feeling a lot better once the calcium is added, but I still can't shake the feeling that the cloudy water isn't easy for them to breathe. But that's just my take. I'm a human. What do I know? I don't breathe the water that they do. These snowball shrimp are also on the new feed now, and I've been getting better at adding it to the tank and getting it all the way down into their feeding dish without spreading it all over the bottom. Keeping the feed in place is a good habit because if it isn't all eaten in a day or so, I like to remove the remainders so that it doesn't foul up the water. Once the food gets to the dish, I've been keeping track of how quickly the shrimp get to it, and of course, how well the new feed is received by the community. Today marks a new record in my keeping track. They hit the newly added pellets in a matter of minutes and started picking them apart immediately. This is a good sign because it means that they have fully accepted the new feed, but to be honest, what choice do they really have? They're pretty good eaters. But they actually do like it, and the entire community is bustling very quickly to jostle over positions in the feeding dish. One shrimp starts the feeding frenzy, and you can see the particles start to get pushed around the tank as they're stirred up from the dish. The smell of it all starts getting around the 30-gallon tank rather quickly, and then you can see the individual shrimp start to hone in on where the good smells are coming from. All in all, it took about 2 minutes before the entire dish was filled with happy shrimp, all getting their fill of this newfound treat. With all the shrimp moving around, grabbing bits of food and jumping up every now and then, the food does get distributed widely across the substrate and into the filter. A little bit of it lost in the tank doesn't hurt, and it can eventually help the plants and bacteria to flourish as well. The smaller shrimp don't seem to be having a problem edging in on the food. I see them riding the larger shrimp but also dodging in between their legs sometimes. The smallest shrimp though, those that are only a few weeks old, don't seem to bother with this food source. I have seen them combing the glass and the filters, however, so I believe that they are well fed and able to take care of themselves. This is the beginning of the feeding. The pellets are still well composed and the bustle at the dish doesn't destroy the little pieces at all. The male shrimp look to be the most determined to hop around and get the best spot to feed, but their time on target is less efficient than the females, who take their time and stick with the same spot longer. This is the main female shrimp of the snowball community, and she can literally choose when and where to land when the food arrives. Her size means that she isn't scared off by much, and when she arrives, the other members of the mountains have to move out of the way. About the only thing in the tank that can get her to move are the snails, and they aren't bothered by anything. The Snowball Shrimp community has been growing steadily, and the number of fry that survive into the juvenile stage has been increasing. It seems that everything has affected this group's survivability. I have since reworked the water quality, the feed, and the filter components to keep their numbers up, and it does seem to be finally paying off. I don't know how other shrimp keepers are able to do it, but I'm just not yet willing to tear my beautiful tanks apart to create a sponge farm. Eventually, though, I guess I'll have to dedicate some more space to a larger sponge filter, because that seems to be their nursery of choice. It's interesting to see all the snowballs this close because it really shows off their diversity. The differences between the males and females, as well as the size differences between the different generations of shrimp, are easy to spot. And lastly, the two differently colored snowball shrimp whose color has only gotten more stark with each passing week. The pink-colored snowball shrimp has really brightened up, and you can see the difference in her shell and the pigment cells when she's closer to the camera. Here on the largest female, you can see the gill system and the way that they move water through their upper body. After that, you can see the way that their mouth works and the constant ingestion that occurs, including food and water. To be honest, I've never seen it stop, and that's partly due to the fact that they always look like they are either eating or breathing. The food that's kicked up makes its way towards the back of the tank, where the filter kicks it up again and makes an attempt to pull it into the inlet. Some of it does get stuck in the sponge filter there and becomes food for the baby shrimp. The stuff that doesn't get sucked up is instead shuttled around the back of the tank, where it meets up with the outflow again and gets pushed back into the flow of the tank water in an endless circle. Here you can see those particles flowing by, like a snowfall of food. When it's feeding time, the entire tank becomes a giant snowstorm of food particles until the dish is left empty. Or I'm left to vacuum up the remaining mess. This is the closer shot with the added lens, and it offers a great look at the feeding shrimp, and they're really going to town on this new food. It's great to see. Tons of claws, tons of antennas, and lots of legs to boot. If I didn't already think that these shrimp were beautiful, I'd probably have a hard time appreciating them this close. But they are fun to watch. Their sense of purpose and determination is unlike any other fish that you can keep in a freshwater tank. If you're willing to go the extra mile and keep your water quality a top priority, I can't recommend keeping shrimp enough. They are an amazing creature. Most of this footage was captured at night after the main tank light turned off for the evening. Instead, I brought in a single flashlight to illuminate the surrounding area and the feeding dish. It is a really nifty look. It's though the entire scene is lit by a full moon, and the mountains with the surrounding trees are asleep for the evening. As the light fades back from the center of the illuminated spot, the mountains disappear into the background, and the focus is kept on the few shrimp who ventured into the light to feed at the dish. The black background of this acrylic tank really accentuates this look, and I'll have to remember that as I prep the next acrylic tank for whatever shrimp ends up calling that setup its home. Not every shrimp chooses to feed at the dish. This female is looking for bits on the substrate, and this young male has decided to grab an entire chunk of the food and steal it away for himself under the protection of the pine cones. He's got a few seconds to himself with the choice chunk of food, but it's not long before someone notices the missing piece. Perhaps they smelled the tasty bits floating on the water and decided to come and check it out, but the disturbance has the same result. Either way, he's scared off and decides to take the entire piece of food with him, with it safely stored in his claws. Here is that beautiful pink and cream colored female shrimp. Notice that her eggs are a different color, too, compared to the other snowball shrimp. It's hard to say what features will become prominent in her baby shrimp offspring, but hopefully some of her unique coloring will be passed along to her children. As I said before, this pink hue didn't start showing up until after her juvenile stage, so I may already have some shrimp in the tank with her line of offspring. There are other snowballs who have a spot with redness and other colorations, but this seems to be the most uniform and appealing of the off-white shrimp in the tank. Her eggs are more similar to the standard red cherry shrimp, so that may be where she got her cross-coloring from. Some red cherry shrimp further down in her family tree. Either way, the results are simply beautiful. A very unique shrimp among the rest of the snowball shrimp. I can't say it enough, it really is a treat to get them so close to the front of the tank for the feeding with this new dish. I feel much better about the food too, as it's packed with probiotics and nutrients to help these shrimp grow up healthy and properly nourished. It was a really good choice to change up their feed. Here you can see one of the juvenile shrimp with the largest female shrimp. The size difference is stark. For reference, the juvenile shrimp is the one closer to the edge of the glass, so even he has the advantage of perspective to help his size. Nevertheless, he is getting the opportunity to feed too and doesn't shy away from the competition over available pieces. This dish is good because it has a suction cup that attaches it to the side of the tank and a rippled edge that allows the shrimp to perch on it easily. I have seen the bamboo shrimp plowing away at the food in the dish when they get the chance though. I've also spotted snails that have managed to find their way up the tank wall and onto the platform. They're really opportunistic feeders. Every shrimp in the mountains is enjoying the vibe, and I'm overjoyed that they now seem to call it home. Overall, I'm really happy with the way the mountains has finally found its groove. With plants, substrate, nutrients, and chemicals all in balance, it's a wonder that everything works in concert. Speaking of which, I have spotted some new developments in the forest tank, and I'm pleased to say that fairly soon we'll have another round of jade green shrimp fry scuttling around that tank. I'm going to try and bring back the Hygger sponge filter for that setup in preparation for the newcomers. The water in the forest is also crystal clear and has all the proper nutrients in it, so I'll have an update for that tank soon in the coming week. Thank you guys for showing up and checking out the mountains once again with me. This has been a fun episode and it's also been very encouraging. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, I hope that you have some sweet shrimpy dreams before we meet next. Good night.